Kata shako kile awanki glatapo naha kasapa he weop shapisnyo paha na wakha.
Happy Indigenous Day. Do good work, 7Fires. Protect sacred sites, and the Black Hills is not for sale.
Environmental activism is more important now than ever before. Today, we've travelled to Secwepemc land just outside of Kamloops in British Columbia to tell the story of some little houses that will be standing in the way of a big pipeline. Hi, Kanahoos.
Hi.
Pleasure to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
It's a hive of activity here, isn't it?
Yes.
Can you tell me a little bit about what's going on? Why are you here right now?
We're here building the first tiny house of 10. We're planning on building 10 tiny houses to be placed right in the direct path of the Trans Mountain Kinder Morgan pipeline. Proposing to go through our Indigenous traditional territories and homelands. 518 kilometers of this pipeline proposes to cross our lands. So in order to stop it, we are going to live in tiny houses on the pipeline route. This pipeline is proposing to bring tar sands bitumen from the Alberta tar sands all the way to the Salish Sea, all the way to Vancouver, and pump it to the global markets. And they need to go through our lands in order for it to get to Vancouver. But what we're saying is that this fossil fuel industry is just going to increase all of the impacts of climate change that we're facing today. And we can't have the Alberta tar sands increase, and we can't have this pipeline going through. And it's really to protect our water and our land and our traditional foods and our children's future.
So this pipeline project, it's predominantly an environmental concern for you, right?
It's a Indigenous, a Secwepemc concern. As Secwepemc people, we've been here for tens of thousands of years. We say since the beginning of time. Our people have mammoth tusks that are carved, by our people. So we've been here occupying and using this land for thousands and thousands of years. And so we are the environment. Like when we talk about being environmentalists, we are the environment because we've had such a close relationship with our land that we are a part of the land. And what we say is that the blood and bones of our ancestors make up the land and this earth upon which we walk, and that's why we have to walk with such great respect. And that's why we need to defend our land from anything that's trying to really destroy it. The Imperial Metals Mount Polley mine disaster was a catastrophic mine disaster that happened 3 years ago that spilled hundreds of millions of toxic mine waste, tailings and heavy metals and processing chemicals into Hazeltine Creek that led into Quesnel Lake, which is the deepest glacier-fed lake in the world. And it crushed our nation. Happened in the heart of our nation, and all of our water is impacted all the way to the Fraser. So we've seen firsthand environmental disasters happen in our territory, and we're not about to risk this happening again.
So for people out there who think it's just a pipeline running through the land, what are the major things that you're worried about? What does this pipeline put at risk?
Our whole world. The Alberta tar sands is one of the world's largest carbon bombs. And by pushing through with a pipeline that's going to only increase the size of the Alberta tar sands, it's going to drastically impact all of us around the world. We see what's happening with our climate already and extremes that we're seeing with the climate already. It's just going to make everything worse.
So why did you choose tiny houses to make this stand?
I was down at Standing Rock at the resistance against the Dakota Access Pipeline, and we saw the tiny houses going up in 2 or 3 days. And so because of our time restraint with this construction of this pipeline coming through, we wanted these tiny houses, but also because our community really believes in alternative building, and it's something that our community has been discussing for a long time. Our goal with these 10 tiny houses is to be put strategically in the path of the pipeline, but this is also creating an awakening within our nation for sustainable living. So our imprint on this land doesn't increase, but we really minimize our impact on the lands, and that includes going small with our homes and our consumption. Also, we want to be able to really have some of these tiny houses for cultural revival and language revival. Language is really important. We're not only losing our land, but we're also losing our language, and our language is based on the land and being out there on the land. So language is a really key point, but also reviving our traditional birth-keeping practices and our traditional indigenous tattooing practices, that we want to utilize these tiny houses to bring back and revive some of our culture that has been lost or threatened as well.
So why tiny houses on wheels though?
We chose to have the tiny houses on wheels for it to be mobile, so we could be moving it around to different areas that are under attack and under threat by this construction of this pipeline, because it is a 1,000-kilometer pipeline, and over half of that is within our territory. So it's a big geographical area. And because being as a Native person that has been in the land resistance fight for many, many years, we've seen our houses being destroyed and bulldozed down. We've seen the province come in with injunctions and trespass notices to say that we are illegally on our own territory. But this is the way we challenge them, as we go out there and we continue to still do this. There has never been any formal agreement of us giving up our land to anybody. So really the provincial government is just assuming that they have authority and control, even though legally they have no legal binding. And that's why we're saying we don't give our consent for the pipeline to go through. And we're standing on the power that we have the collective right as Indigenous people to say no to these projects. These tiny houses are standing on with very big, powerful force right now in our nation. And it's already created a lot of tension with politicians and the leaders here in BC and Canada, but it's going to even create more once we actually physically get these tiny houses moved right on the path of the pipeline.
And this is the very first one to be built right here, isn't it?
Yes.
Can we have a look at what you're doing?
So like I said, we put it on the trailer, so it's on 18-foot trailer. It's built out, so it's a little bit bigger than the actual trailer. And it's rodent proof, so they put that metal in there, so that's one of the good things. It's rodent proof. It was one of the women at Standing Rock that went to build some of the tiny houses there that had the original concept plan for the tiny house, but because we brought volunteer builders from like all around, that this is their first time meeting each other, and like they didn't build a tiny house, but they've been carpenters for 30 plus years and things like that, so they have a lot of knowledge and came together and put this together for us. And we're so happy. We're going to be putting some more plywood on top of this and painting it, so this whole house is going to be a mural. The murals will be stories of our people, so we wanted to have a big salmon. A salmon, because the salmon, like I said, is the keystone species. Anything that happens to the salmon is going to impact us all.
So what's going on the build here today?
They're putting the door in right now. So the door is finally getting put in, and this is like our house.
And so once the home's completed, what will actually be going inside here?
We want to make this living space something really comfortable for people that are going to be out there, because they're going to be more in an isolated situation too, because it's going to be out on the territory. So we want to have a comfortable living space, and we're going to be putting the composting toilet and all of that on the outside, because the whole project is called Tiny House Warriors, Our Land is Home. So we want to also, we're having minimal amount of living and sleeping space, but our land is our home. So we want to beautify and make the outside living space just as well as we do our inside living space. We want to put some bunk beds in here. We're going to have solar installation in here. People from the impacted tar sands communities have said they're going to sponsor the first solar installation on the first tiny house. So that's something that we were really looking forward to. We're probably going to install it right there on the pipeline route and put our little wood stove in there. And so that would be our cooking space as well for in the winter.
People are already calling this the next Standing Rock. What do you say to that?
Like there's hundreds of thousands or maybe even a million of people that have been aware of what happened at Standing Rock. And I believe that, yes, this can be the next big Standing Rock. And a lot of people that want to come and help, we want to ask them to come and help build these. You know, people that want to come and stand on the front lines. This is our front line fight now, is building tiny houses. And and being able to not just resist against something, but also to create something really beautiful, to create hope and to create homes for people, because we have such a big housing crisis as Indigenous people in our communities. People don't have homes. So this is going to be able to help create some hope for our people. And all too often we're always there blocking, but we want to be a solution. We want to be a climate leaders. We want to have solutions to the climate issue, and we feel that this is one of them. And by minimizing our imprint on the earth and being able to live closer to the earth is a way that we can do it.
So for people out there watching this right now who want to help, how can they help? What can they do? How do they get in touch with you?
We have our Tiny House Warriors Facebook page, and that's how everybody could get in contact with us right now. We are going to be putting another call out for builders to come for this whole duration of these 9 other tiny houses that we're going to be building, and for the mural and for the artists that want to come and help produce beautiful art to be put all around this tiny house. And so Tiny House Warriors Facebook page, reach out to us, message us on that. We are looking for donations and volunteer support right now.
With this tiny house, I feel you're going to be making a really big statement. I personally feel really proud, and I'm very inspired to be here right at the very beginning. Thank you so much for sharing all this with me, and the best of luck.
Thank you.
This land is beautiful, it's abundant, and it's precious. Protecting our environment should be something that's at the very forefront of all of our minds, our hearts, and our actions in this world. To that end, I am so incredibly inspired by what I'm seeing here today, and I feel very privileged to witness the very start of this movement.
People, shine your light, we are equal. I remember the days when our prayers were illegal. I remember the days when being Indian was lethal. Yeah, we had a rough past, but get ready for the sequel. Get ready for the glorious comeback of our people. Oh, yeah. Rise up, all you warriors of love, all you answers to the prayers of our ancestors from above. I can feel it in my heart. Can you feel it in your blood? I can hear the 7th fire calling us to wake up, wake up. All nations rise, rise up, 'cause now's your time. We don't have to hide anymore, 'cause all nations rise, rise up, 'cause now's your time. We don't have to hide anymore, 'cause now's forgiveness as my bow and my prayers as my arrows, pull them back and let go. I watch them fly like sparrows. Have hope. Yeah, have hope. With compassion as my shield and faith down to my marrow, I will walk the pollen path even when it gets narrow. Yeah, yeah, I resurrect. Yes, you can bet that we seen the single mama raising children on the res. We seen domestic violence tear apart what we have left. We seen the alcohol take it all and leave us dead. We seen the children take their lives when they can't take the dread anymore. It's a war. Can't take the dread anymore. It's a war. No, we can't take the dread anymore. It's a war. No, we can't take the dread anymore. It's a war. Yeah. It's a war, but we've seen it all before, and now we know we can change it, 'cause that's why we were born. We know we are the ones that we have been waiting for. We are the ones Grandma has been praying for. So rise up, All you warriors of love, all you answers to the prayers of our ancestors from above. I can feel it in my heart, can you feel it in your blood? I can hear the seventh fire calling us to wake up. Wake up. Pueblo hermoso, levántense, es nuestro tiempo. No tienes que esconderte más, ahora es nuestro tiempo. Mujer indígena, tú eres tan sagrada. Traigas medicina de tu suelo todavía. A pesar del abuso de tu cuerpo y tu tierra, respetamos tus ancestros y la suya cultura. Hombre indígena, tú eres honorable y yo veo la fuerza que todavía sobrevive. A pesar del abuso de tu raza venerable, yo respeto tus ritos, tus danzas, tus padres. Somos guerreros del amor y guerreros de la paz y no vamos a escondernos más. Somos guerreros del amor y guerreros de la paz y no vamos a escondernos más.
They say that history is written by the victors. But how can there be a victor when the war isn't over? The battle has only just begun, and Creator is sending his very best warriors. And this time, it isn't Indians versus cowboys. No, this time, it is all the beautiful races of humanity together on the same side, and we are fighting to replace our fear with love. And this time, bullets, arrows, and cannonballs won't save us. The only weapons that are useful in this battle are the weapons of truth, faith, and compassion.
So who have we interviewed so far, and who do we have to interview next?
So we're doing Beth Brownfield next tomorrow.
I'm Freddie Lane, a member of the Lummi Nation.
And I'm Jason with the Natural History Museum. We're collaborating on a new traveling exhibit, Quelhoy, We Draw the Line, that uplifts Indigenous leadership in movements, water, and our collective future.
For the last 15 years, the House of Tears Carvers, led by Master Carver Jewel James, has been transporting totem poles around the world as a way of bringing communities together and highlighting issues. The most recent series has focused on drawing a line in connection between communities on the front lines of the environmental crisis and drawing a line in the sand against fossil fuel expansion projects. I've been an organizer and documentary videographer on most of the journeys.
On our end, we started the Natural History Museum by teaming up with 150 of the world's top scientists, museums to cut ties to fossil fuel producers. In 2 years, 8 museums have stepped up to the plate, and oil mogul David Koch, denial, left the board of New York's American Museum of Natural History. Museums see more visitors annually than sporting events and theme parks combined. They are one of the most trusted sources of information in society. They shape and normalize perspectives on nature and culture.
Historically, they have also had a problematic relationship with Indigenous people from around the world. If museums are to be relevant today, they need to be telling the story of what's happening. The climate and environmental crisis we face didn't just happen. They're a result of greed and exploitation. Native prophecies warned us that the rivers and the skies will turn black if we don't change our ways. We know that water is life, and oil, gas, and coal are death.
We're in a new moment. 1 million people checked into Facebook when water protectors at Standing Rock were threatened with eviction. That is a story that people are interested in and needs to be told. Through doing this work with museums, we found that there are a lot of directors and curators that are sympathetic and want to engage these issues in their museums.
Despite the fact that entire nations have been built atop the idea that the objects contained within museums represent dead cultures, there's a spirit that lives on in them that will never be extinguished.
And this is what Quahoi, We Draw the Line, is all about. The exhibition will debut at the Carnegie Museum of Natural History in Pittsburgh during a conference with 500 delegates from natural history museums from around the world. With Quahoi, we are unleashing the power of museums as agents of change. Our goal and our hope is that rather than gathering dust inside the museums, the pole will gather the power of Mother Earth's red line into the museum, linking it in a chain of solidarity with those who are struggling to protect the living universe for future generations.
So who have we interviewed?
Hi, I'm Elise Von Traeger from Topeka, Indiana. I was a vet stand volunteer out at Standing Rock, and this past summer and spring I lived in one of the camps up in Flint, Michigan for the lead water crisis. I was very touched when I was asked to record a brief statement for the 7Fires Media Collective for their launching, and I'd like to share that with you now. I am honored to be asked to join in celebrating with the 7Fires Media Collective in their inaugural endeavor to inform an ever-dividing country in these tumultuous and misinformed times, proudly adding my voice to the others on their launch purposely set for October 9th, the second Monday of the month. I acknowledge and agree with their staff and all Indigenous Americans that the United States annual homage observed the second Monday of each October to Christopher Columbus's 1492 implied first discovery is nothing less than a yearly reminder of their losses and a profound source of disrespect. Lacking respect in that his very arrival signifies in symbol all the atrocities perpetuated on a people, their lands, and ultimately their way of life, as well as the continued prejudices and abuses both they and their remaining land and waterways must still endure today. In this light, Columbus Day to me, from this day forward, will not be celebrated for the destruction it has signified up until now, but for the brave and valiant first Americans who continue to fight for their rights over all treaty lands, both held and unceded, and for a more responsible stewardship of this living planet overall. My hope is that someday this could be made official and given as an offering for what never should have happened, and as an acknowledgement that it did happen. I pray that in abolishing Columbus Day and our acknowledgement of the true history of wrongs committed against America's indigenous people, by declaring of the same and naming anew in honor of their ancestors' great sacrifices, by which rose our country, the United States, and that intent, entitled the day First Indigenous Americans Day, in the hope that it can aid in reparation, not in changing an unchangeable past, but in the course and current trajectory of that history's future and our inescapable fault within it. This was and is by right their land. We cannot in all honesty say that this people has not, was not, and is not still being grievously wrong if we continue to celebrate and observe the day and the man who will always herald the beginning of the violent and systemic destruction of the first Americans and their nation. Columbus can be no other for them or myself than a symbolic harbinger and catalyst to all the suffering that followed, and in many ways continues still today, generations after the fact. So, 7Fires Media Collective, Congratulations on your launch day. I hope that you will be a great success and inform many, many people of the news that we need to know. And I'd like to be able to say to you for the first time myself, Happy First Indigenous Americans Day. I can think of no more worthy people than the great warriors I stand alongside at every fight I go to for the water, the air, the land, liberties, and now life. So if you want to talk about it that way, wall for your protection, solved. So congratulations, 7Fires Media Collective, and have a absolutely perfect First Indigenous Americans Day. Much love, one love, namaste.
See yourself a winner.